Welcome back to another edition of the Vandy Program. Pleased to have Rachel Del Vecchio with us today. She is with Rise8, and they do well. I'll let her tell you what it is they do and what it is she does. She's also a veteran of veteran of a variety of marketing roles and has spent time at Hubspot. Rachel, hello. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So tell me about yourself. What brought you to where you are today, and what it is that you do.
Whew. It's a windy path. I'll try to keep some of the background and history brief, but you might appreciate this, Dave, since you've got a journalism background. I also have a journalism background. Journalism was my first true love. I started out writing for my high school paper in high school. I became the editor-in-chief of it, and then I started writing for my city's paper in high school as well, doing a weekly column. And I also founded a teen radio talk show on an AM station. And I loved it. I loved interviewing people, I loved talking to people, and I loved telling stories about things that I cared about. And then when I got to college, I started out, with a journalism major. 2010 to 2012 was a very weird time for journalism in this country. A lot of papers were shuttering, reducing print schedules, trying to figure out the whole online news subscription models. And at the time, I was just becoming a little bit more disillusioned with the industry. And I was also simultaneously falling deeper and deeper in love with radio, working as the promotions director of KLSU, the college radio station at LSU. And it was like the best of both worlds because I got to talk to my favorite bands. I got to write about music. I got to just listen to new albums all day long with my friends at the radio station. And it was really my first taste of just talking and writing about things that I cared about as opposed to, what an editor assigned to me or covering, the JV basketball game, which I couldn't have cared less about. No offense to sports broadcasters out there. But it was my first taste of writing and talking about things that I liked. And I, through talking with mentors, I was like, maybe I should do marketing. Maybe this is actually the characteristics of advertising and storytelling about things that I care about. And that's always been, I think, a qualifier for me to love what I do in the marketing world is that I have to actually give a damn about the thing that I'm selling. Because if I don't, I feel the life just draining out of me every day at work. Which I got to experience a little bit of that in my early advertising career, working at ad agencies where, you just have your book of business, you have your client portfolio, and some of them are cool, and some of them are the less sexy, cool brands that still do need to advertise to keep their business afloat. But I had a harder time finding the joy in working with those clients, and eventually got kind of burnt out of ad industry world. Did a little bit of soul searching after that, opened a food truck, became a personal trainer, and I've actually found my way back to marketing through helping small local businesses do their own marketing initiatives. And it started with the gyms that I was training at, helping them launch their loyalty programs and, their free memberships and or their free trials, I should say. And that's how I started kind of remembering oh, right, I do like marketing when it's for things that I care about. So I had to experience the other side of that coin to realize I do find a lot of joy in this work and I really do love it. That's around the time that I started working for Simplero, which is it's an all-in-one course hosting platform that specializes for infopreneurs. So if you were a coach or a course creator trying to sell your courses and your information, you would use this tool for your email marketing, your landing pages, your websites, your automations, all the things. And I started working there as essentially on their customer success team, but my role kind of shifted to also helping those customers with their marketing. Because again, I was just like, I feel like I could help you write these emails better than what we're doing right now. So like, let's just give you some tips. That actually shifted from working in that role to working at Hubspot, which was a very similar role on their consulting team, their pro services team. So for people who are really trying to customize their portals and make sure that it was fitting their business needs, they would hire someone from the inbound consulting team to help them make sure that they were, doing all of their ops the right way, optimizing the right way. And so I was there for a little while. Unfortunately, was impacted by a sweeping bottom, like 10% round of layoffs. And I was unfortunately pregnant at the time. No foul play suspected. I was just part of a new hire that got impacted. So don't cry foul play. I promise it's fine. And I started looking for work again, putting my feelers out to my network. And that is when Brian Kroger, the founder of Rise8, found me. He was looking to expand their marketing team, passed my information along to Jordan, my current boss, the director of marketing at Rise8, and conversations just started progressing from there. And I've been there for a little over 2.5 years now. Rise8, we do software development for the government, custom software. So we work with kind of a swath of different federal agencies to basically help them create the software that they need to complete the actual mission that they are tasked to. When possible, like we're what's called COTS, so commercial off-the-shelf software. Like we're COTS forward. So if there is, an Excel spreadsheet or a travel booking system that actually exists and fits your needs, take it. Use it, buy the licenses, adopt it, roll it out to your Deltas, your Wings, whoever. But for those very specific mission sets that need custom software, that's really our niche. And that's where we have found ourselves thriving and really helping who we think, people who historically have had to use very bad software to do their jobs. And that was the entire impetus for Brian Kroger starting this company. Is he was an Air Force veteran, had to use terrible, terrible software to do his job, and thought to himself, like, there has to be a better way. And that's really been his mission set. And since then, our company has grown and grown. And we attract actually tons of veterans who had the same problem working in the government, who are now working to help the government from the outside by fixing their software issues and helping them to complete their missions.
Okay. A lot to unpack there, and I
know. Sorry, that was quite the spiel.
That's okay. I took some notes. I don't know if we want to talk about the bands that you met in the 2010s or the food truck first, because I do want to come back. I do want to come back to what you're doing now and the whole marketing thing. But what was the coolest band you got a chance to meet, interview back in the day?
Yeah, so I had a jam band show, and so I was really stoked to meet some jam bands.
Okay.
Keller Williams was one, Perpetual Groove another. I also got to meet Modest Yahoo at one point, which was pretty neat. I interviewed him.
Okay.
And there's this one band, not jam band at all, called Rebel Bucket. They're a little bit more indie, under the radar, but so fun. And that was a great one too. But honestly, like, I got to interview, it was a lot of local bands, a lot of people who, here we are like 10 years later, probably don't exist anymore. But it's just so fun to talk to people about their hobbies and the things they're passionate about. So I loved it no matter what size they were or how popular they were.
Got it. And then what was the food truck? What did you sell? What did you make?
Yeah, it was a breakfast food truck. So we were sourcing locally roasted coffee and making breakfast. We did not have a commercial kitchen in the food truck though. So like everything we were making had to be prepared in advance in a commercial kitchen and then brought to the food truck to sell it. So, we weren't there, like with a big, grill, like, making up your egg sandwich there on the spot. It was more like muffins. We did some like pre-made egg sandwiches and stuff, but lots of baked goods. We really tried to do, more healthy-ish sides of baking. So slightly lower sugars, higher fiber, experimented with different types of flours, just to kind of give people a little bit of a better start to their day than just, white flour and sugar. Not that there's anything wrong with that in the right situations, but I find it didn't sustain me for more than an hour or two for breakfast. So try to get people a little more protein and fiber.
I hear you. Okay, so you've got the talking to bands experience, the food truck experience, the marketing, advertising, small business experience, all of that packed together, and then some time at HubSpot, and now you're in a sounds like a mission-focused organization, or an organization that helps the government focus on, or various government agencies focus on their missions. What's the biggest challenge that you face, or what's the biggest challenge that you're helping clients solve?
So our company, I would say that the biggest challenge we help our customers solve is developing software according to industry best practices. So to create highly secure software in the government, traditionally, this process has worked the same way that procuring and ordering an airplane would work. So like the traditional method was, if the government said, we need a software that does this thing, they would then, write this long list of requirements that they wanted the software to do. So it needs to be able to do these 200 things. And that list of 200 things is just created by a bunch of people, in the office over a couple of weeks. Quite a few people sign off, at maybe months, actually. Things move a little slowly in the government. But they're all guesses, and they may be very good guesses, but none of those requirements have been tested in the field or tested with real operators to know if anything on there is actually going to do the thing that they want it to do. And so they put this long list together. They, say, hey, vendors, check out this long list. Give us your proposals for the cost it would, take to develop this and the timeline. And then vendors put in their proposals. Government goes through this long process of evaluating and choosing the vendor. Then they finally pick one, and assuming there's no protests, they start working with that vendor. Vendor goes away for maybe a year, 2 years, sometimes up to 5 years, developing this large software, and gives it back to the government when they're done and says, here's the software. We know in best practices in industry that this is doomed to fail, because none of the software hasn't been tested in the actual mission capacity that it was built for. And so if you start rolling it out to your operators, they start realizing wow, and maybe some of those requirements were actually, all of those requirements were created, you assume, in, again, great educated guesses at the time. But now 3 years have passed. And maybe there's other software that has already been integrated and conflicts with that software. Maybe they're entering data in this software and in that software and in that software, just because none of these tools are talking to each other and were made in isolation of each other instead of within the environment that they were intended to be deployed in. So at Rise8, we are trying to turn that all on its head and help the government procure our services faster, and develop and push out software according to typical like agile best practices, where you start with an MVP, you test your assumptions constantly in the field with real feedback, so that way you have functioning software within 6 months. It may not have all of the bells and whistles that you would like it to have yet, but we have tested and validated the assumptions that we did make, so that at least in those first 6 months, you do have something that is helping you with your mission, knowing that we are gradually adding to it and validating those assumptions as we go. So it is a much faster way to get something useful into their hands than waiting years and years for something that may not be useful at all. So that's what we do. And there's so much bureaucracy and hurdles to do that, and especially coming from places like HubSpot, which like kudos to the product teams at HubSpot, because those people are rolling out product updates daily and weekly at most, but sometimes daily they've got a new product update. Coming from that world, and even at a smaller company like Simplero, and seeing how much faster we were able to react to customer feedback, that like roll out betas, test things, run focus groups, to coming and understanding the problem set that Rise8 is facing and being like, what? Like, how long does it take you to patch a bug?
Right.
Months? Like, oh my gosh, what? And it was mind-boggling coming from like the tech world and realizing how slowly the government is able to procure and roll out software. So yeah, since coming here, it's been, I really feel like our company, and there are a few other digital services companies like ours that are really on this forefront of pushing the government to do this differently. Like, it doesn't have to be this way. It just requires us to kind of like smartly navigate the bureaucracy that has like made this so challenging. But fortunately, with the team we have at Rise8, and again, a lot of them are former veterans, we have that kind of insider knowledge, and there's some comfort in knowing like it is possible. We've done it before. It's just every, organization, program just still functions a little differently, despite it being part of the very large enterprise of the federal government. Everybody has their own sort of interpretation of rules, and something may not be at all technically illegal, but there is this perception that, oh, I can't do that. Instead of really like reading, the FAR or some of these other, like, unfortunately, giant policy books to understand how they work, so that you can navigate it legally and still like do this work that you need to do to complete your mission.
That sounds complex, and I guess rattling around in my head is there's one end of software marketing where you've got the sales team is out there and they're talking to people all the time, and they come back, and kind of the old Dilbert thing of, sales says it's going to be like this, and marketing says it's, okay, we can make it work, and then the technical team is like, that's functionally impossible. But in this case, it's where the requirements, if I'm hearing you correctly, the requirements are set out way over here, so that sales knows exactly what the book says that they have to do, and you've got to kind of navigate it back this direction. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, you are. And we try to get, we try to work from our, from like that growth and sales process. And this is why like building relationships and trust is so imperative if you're working with the federal government, because in an ideal world, we know that somebody is needing software for something, or like they're trying to modernize, like get something off of a legacy system and try to update it. Ideally, we're having conversations with them way in advance of them building out that 200 requirement list, because we want to have the, work with them on establishing what those requirements are, and more, we are trying to shift our customers' mindset to not features, not outputs. Like, you don't need an app specifically. What you need is this mission outcome. You need to like save your operators 10 hours a week because they are doing redundant data entry. Okay, so now that we've reoriented our frame of reference for the problem we're trying to solve, we can work with them on what will actually move that needle. And a lot of times it's software, but there are maybe times where it's just like your process is just broken, and like there are potentially other solutions besides going and procuring a multi-million dollar, big software thing. Like, we don't necessarily know that until we work with them to say like, okay, hold up. Maybe you don't need an app. What are you trying to do? Like, what are you trying to accomplish here? And work with them that way. We have an IDIQ, which is a contract vehicle. So it's basically a legal way for government to get on contract with us, basically quickly. And what we can do with that IDIQ is help them understand these software services and those agile ways of working. Like, we can start performing those services with them under task orders, and I'm getting a little in the weeds with contract language here, but basically like we can start working with them on that process before they go put out this 200 requirement RFP to the giant open market. And that's where we like to try to work with them to have that influence, because there is a better way than a lot of acquisition professionals have been taught.
Yeah, that makes total sense. That it sounds like it's a very consultative marketing role as opposed to a traditional sales-driven marketing role where the sales team is telling you, we're going to sell a few hundred of these and you're going to figure out a way to help us sell those. And then the technical team will build it.
Right. Yeah. We mostly, from a marketing perspective, we are just pushing education constantly. Like, there's a better way. Here's why it's better. Here are the benefits of doing it this way. So it's all about marketing our approach and effectively this path that's totally viable to them, that is not the top of mind awareness that a lot of especially new program managers have. So it's all education based. And that's really been the big focus since I've been at Rise8, is like making sure our customers know that there is a better way. We are here to support them through understanding and trying to do it this way, because we know it's hard. Like, we like to call our ideal customers change agents, because it's like, we know that this is like a bit of a, Sisyphus uphill boulder situation. Like, this isn't the way that the government likes to teach you how to do this stuff. But I assure you, it is all 100% legal. It's just making sure that they know what levers they can pull and giving them the documentation, the education to be able to go to their boss and say, I want to work with this company because they've got this really, innovative, but for the government, yes, way of doing things that I think will serve our mission better. And so all we do in the marketing world is education. I wouldn't say all, but a vast majority is education based.
And we were talking earlier that you probably, because AI is all so new and the government writ large is trying to figure out where it fits. But as an individual marketer and maybe with some of your past experience, what are the impacts that you're seeing on how work is changing with the rollout? It seems like every couple weeks of a new update to Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot or and on and on and on. How much is that
Yeah.
impacting both your work as a marketer and then the way you have to translate that or try to translate that to clients who I'm sure are asking, even though it's all premature and and it's still changing, but they're asking, I'm sure, what should I be doing here?
It's a great question. Um, a lot of the federal government, they are getting, and just like corporate, like everybody is getting these mandates from the tippy top, use AI. Everybody use AI. And then meanwhile, all of the middle people are scrambling to figure out how, like, what is the best way to use this tool for my job and for my work. And so we're right there with the government. In fact, we have an event coming up next week where we are going like heads down with some of our customers and partners, and we are all learning to vibe code. Our entire company, many of our customers, we are all learning to vibe code next week at this event. Because like there is so little time when you are, like you're in your day-to-day work. It's hard to figure out how to really leverage these tools and set aside the time to experiment, to try out this model versus this model, to integrate it with your project management tool and like play around with it, because there is no, it's, I mean, it can feel like you have like superpowers, but inevitably it fails you at some point. Or
Right.
you give it the wrong prompt, or you're like going back and forth with it on prompts trying to figure out like, we're just not getting there, are we? And I've certainly I've been blessed to be on a team that really encourages experimentation with AI, and because we are so education heavy, it has made our job as marketers just a million times easier, because we're able to work with this large repository of existing educational content and use it to prompt the tools to help us create a different piece of content from that same angle, or let's spin this up into a PDF geared towards this target audience. It's so nice to have that bank of information that we can pull from. It's taken a long time to build that bank, but now that we have it, and of course it will keep getting added to and refined, it's just so much easier to keep pumping out this like in-depth educational content that our customers and our partners and our prospects need to be able to do this kind of work. And so, yeah, I mean, our customers are facing the same problem of like, I keep getting told to use AI. Well, what do we do? And since we're a software development company, of course we leverage AI tools in helping us write code, but ultimately we see AI as an accelerator. So it's not that we're ever going to like tell the government like, you don't need 5 software engineers, you just need 1 in AI. That's not what we're about. We do think that having that human in the loop judgment is necessary, but we can superpower those 5 engineers to help you, again, reach your mission outcome faster. And so that's really how we are talking about AI with our customers, is this acceleration of outcomes. Again, like change it from like, how fast can you build me an app, to how quickly can we get this in the hands of operators and actually move the needle for your mission. And AI, just like other software development tools, can help us do that faster. But we're, by no means trying to necessarily replace headcount, because we know AI still makes mistakes and it still needs that personal touch and good judgment to make it work well.
It reminds me a little bit, Rachel, of the early days of social media, which I'm sure you remember, from every single business saying, well, just get us on social media, and that's going to fix everything.
Facebook page, right? Yeah,
Right, exactly. And so that was, the late aughts and the early tens, but there's a similar having been in organizations and part of management, et cetera, there's a similar sort of, that's the buzzword, that's the magic bullet that's going to fix everything. And I've
Yeah.
heard you say a couple times how education focused you guys are and you are. And that seems to me to be the most important thing for marketers these days, is that education on this will not do this, but it may help you do this, and helping. And part of the challenge, I would imagine, for you is you've got to work with the middle layer of the organization that is being pressured from above, saying exactly what you just said. We need to do AI. How are we going to do AI?
Right. Right. Yeah. And it is, you know, like I would expect, thinking from that leadership perspective, if, you're trying to increase the speed of things and you're trying to move things faster. I mean, government knows that these large bureaucratic bottlenecks exist, and it's just that there's such it's just a tangled web. The system is hard to break down into parts. And so, they push mandates down. It kind of goes through the meat grinder, different interpretations of it. Sometimes it goes back up of like, here's how we're interpreting this. And so we're really trying to just arm our customers with this knowledge and education on, yes, this is the hot, shiny object right now, and let's talk about how to use it practically. It's not the magic bullet. It's not going to just magically make you have all of the wonderful mission software that you need today. But here's how we are using it, and here's how we do think this is a responsible use of it. Because the last thing we want to do is hand over really buggy, inefficient, unsecure software to the federal government. So there still have to be guardrails, there still has to be human judgment, and there just has to be good software development discipline to be able to use these tools wisely, to still deliver on those mission outcomes that the government needs.
If you look into your crystal ball, what are the next few years of specifically your type of work? What do they look like? Marketing into the government, selling into the government, B2G. If you can see around the blind corners, what do you think? What do you think we're going to be looking at?
Hope that there will be So last year, let me back up a little bit. Last year, around Q1, there was a lot of travel restrictions in place and training restrictions put in place for government, which makes it exponentially harder for them to travel for professional development. And you could argue that in some of these cases, these large, giant conventions are potentially not the most educational environments. I think that they do their best and they try. We also put on educational events that really, like I said, like we're getting together with our customers next week to like all sit and vibe code together, because we do think that there is a necessary human connection element when it comes to education and training. Like if you think about all of the like online courses you've ever taken and you're just sitting there watching a video, how much when you decide to pick up your phone or like you go get a snack and then you maybe just stop listening at some point because you get distracted or you're doing your emails. Completely asynchronous digital training has its place, but I think that in-person, fully present education that has like maybe even a hands-on component to it is just so much more effective at getting that retention. And so like if we are really trying to, just upskill our federal workforce, which like the existing federal workforce has been through the ringer the past year or so. So much, it's had so much churn, so much turnover. Of course, Doge came in with the chainsaw, cut a bunch of departments. People are stretched really, really thin. And so we have to have this empathetic, understanding of like how much is being asked of them. And then again, like seeing how little enablement they are getting to do what's being asked of them. And so, big, high level, top down mandates, use AI. Okay, but like, are we teaching them how to use AI? Like, what is really happening beyond giving them access to the tool and saying, like, figure it out? Which, again, like, sometimes there's place for that. But I think that there also needs to be this layer of helping our federal workforce understand how these tools work, what are best practices with software delivery. And as an industry contractor, we are thrilled to be on that mission and help enable our customers to do that kind of work. But like we do need them to be allowed to travel to a workshop and like do that work with us, and for it to not feel like they're asking for an arm and a leg just because they want to go do some training in AI, which like, hey, you've been asking me to do AI, like I'm gonna go get some training from this company, like 2 days, I'll be back. We need to have that understanding, or if my hope, crystal ball, maybe a bit of fingers crossing too, is that the federal government realizes that this sort of enablement activities, and again, maybe there's some threshold or bar that they have to pass to be able to, to be able to go. We offer continuing education credits, so that actively goes towards their professional development kind of benchmarks. But to be able to come and learn and to like just take a couple of days out of a very busy year to be able to upskill, so that when they go back to their teams and they are being asked to move faster, use AI, do all of the things, they have some tools in their toolbox to actually be able to tap into those mandates and really deliver on what leadership is asking of them.
And I guess a final question is, what have I not asked you that I should have asked you?
Man, I don't know. You got some good questions in, Dave. You clearly have a journalism background. I'll give you that.
Thank you.
Let's see. You asked me about the food truck breakfast. You asked me about the bands. Those were the good ones. I mean, I guess like as a final parting thought, you can't open the internet or go to a conference these days without seeing AI everywhere. And I know that there is, especially in the tech space, and I certainly know in the marketing space, a lot of fear around, is this tool replacing my job? What will this mean for me doing X, Y, and Z? And I truly I understand where that fear is coming from. Because I've been laid off before. I understand what it means to be redundant at a company. But there is, I choose to see it so optimistically, and that there is so much opportunity there. But what I do know is that you can't, cross your arms and decide it's not for me. If you protest it, it probably will come for your job. But if you start to face it head on and start working with these tools, and I'm not an AI expert by any means, and I was talking about our big repertoire and blah blah. I would still consider myself very, very early on in my AI learning, AI prompting, AI engineering journey. So I understand the fear, but I feel like it's, unless you face it head on and start intentionally trying to incorporate it into your day-to-day, baby steps at a time, it's going to keep remaining as that big, scary, ominous monster until you really like grab a hold of it. And so that would be, I guess, my only parting advice to marketers or anybody who is sensing that fear is that, taking those intentional steps to try and learn it and incorporate it into your day to day is going to be the best way for you to ride the AI wave that is vastly sweeping over all of business and government right now.
Well, it sounds to me like first of all, your attitude is great on all of this, but it sounds to me like you're in growth mode, like personally, where you're always trying to learn a little bit more, and bringing that to your clients. And I think that might be the big thing that government folks can take away from this conversation is if you're staying if you're open to new experiences, you're staying in growth mode, there's a possibility that this can help you, and we can help you navigate through this and do it positively and achieve that mission outcome that you're looking for.
I think that's spot on, Dave. It really is the growth mindset and waking up every day and understanding and choosing that this can be better. And it's just a matter of figuring out what steps you can take that day to move that needle just a little bit in that direction. No matter if you're in a bureaucratic nightmare or if you are, a private company, we all face similar challenges. So it's just tapping into that growth mindset. I think that's spot on.
So, and then one last thing, give us a plug for the company.
For the company, for Rise8?
Yeah.
I feel like this talk has been a plug for Rise8. But if you're in the federal government, please talk to us. We're here to help you.
Awesome. Rachel Del Vecchio, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation. We will have to do this again at some point. But you've got the right attitude for this. I can see how you're being successful at it. So thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having me, Dave. I'll talk to you soon.